I want to touch on DeSantis, but DeSantis, it came up in Florida in an interesting way, just like a couple of weeks ago, I guess. DeSantis signed some bill that like enhanced the protections for all these car dealers with an exemption for not all these different EV companies, just one, Tesla, right? Walk us through sort of that dynamic.
Yeah, it's interesting because actually it sort of is a perfect showcase of the political calculation for someone with national political ambitions in the GOP. So obviously Ron DeSantis launched his presidential campaign with Elon Musk, and Elon Musk.
I don't know if that's obvious because a lot of people couldn't get through it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Rumor has it that this is what happened. And the way that Tesla is set up, obviously, is that they have no dealerships. They from the moment of their foundation decided not to engage with dealerships at all. They would only sell direct to consumer. And say what you will about Tesla. Obviously, people have very strong opinions for very good reason about Musk and Tesla and the whole deal. But that was a real serious threat to the dealer lobby and to that mode of business. And so DeSantis is kind of caught between these two poles where he loves mega donors, right? He loves the billionaire class and and someone like Musk, who's the richest person on the planet. If he comes knocking, DeSantis is going to say, absolutely, what can I do? And so that's why you have that relationship between the two of them. But at the same time, the car dealers are this incredibly formidable political network. And they don't just have a ton of money. They also have really important community relationships because legally there's only allowed to be one car dealer for every community. So, in rural areas in particular where they buy up ad space and they sponsor little league teams. And if you want to run against the car dealers apparatus, you are living dangerously, especially in Republican politics. And so despite DeSantis launching his campaign with the guy who's the enemy of, really the enemy of the car dealer faction broadly, he then turns around and signs these bills that lock in some of the most extreme protections for car dealers anywhere in the country, outlawing direct sales for every other car company, period, except for Tesla. So they get the one carve out. And then DeSantis also gets to placate these car dealers who have been donating millions of dollars to his campaign already, and already have a very sort of documented close relationship with him. And there you have the two sort of two major players in conservative politics. You have the billionaire class, and then you have the car dealers, and you pretty much need to have both on your team or you have no chance.
I want to talk about EVs because it never occurred to me the implications of electric vehicles on this particular cohort. But why are they so Republican? Is it why are they so Republican? And we should say that they obviously lobby all politicians because we see these protections in blue states almost as much, maybe not quite as severe as in these red states. He said there's 16 states where it's, just sort of off the charts. And I assume they're all in, former Confederate states, frankly.
That's right, pro-business.
But why are car dealers just generally Republican?
It's a really interesting question. And I think that it's kind of one of those great sort of Marxian conundrums where you'd say especially with the electric car issue, the electric car is a threat to their profit center. The fact is electric cars are just a better product. They don't require as much maintenance. You don't have to get the oil changed. It's just a better product. And so it requires less maintenance. But the problem with that is that less maintenance means less money for them. And so they hate electric cars for a very sort of simple material reason, which is that they make less than half on an electric car sale that they would make off of a gas-powered car sale. And that's over
the course of the lifetime of the car, because It's not just a question of how much do I make on the point of sale. It's that you've been locked into almost like a subscription service for the next 10 years that you own this car, let's say.
Right, exactly. And it's I think people don't even realize how expensive that subscription service is. But with electric cars, right, it just takes less to keep them up. And so that means less profit for them. The other thing is that because people are sort of uncomfortable with them, don't know them as well, it takes more to sell one. So it takes more energy to sell one. The salesman have to learn how the car works, which takes time. These things are all, they sound ridiculous, but we're talking about huge margins on a very, very, very easy job that probably shouldn't exist in the first place. Like any sort of incursion like that is not going to be well received. And so they don't like electric cars for that sort of very basic material reason. But the other thing is that they don't like the electric cars for an ideological reason. And that is, when I was at this convention, that was like revealed to me in this incredibly robust and stark and like kind of jarring way, is that yes, they are invested in Republican politics because Republican politicians have been willing to protect their interests. But also like this machine, feeds back into itself. And so like, Greg Gutfeld of Fox News shows up to the thing, to the convention. He's not there to talk about the economics of cars. He's part of the ideological project. And that's a big part of it.
So they just have basically like and where did it start? I mean, so I understand like the way, like once they realize like, okay, for whatever reason, Republican lawmakers are more amenable to doing our bidding. Our lobbying dollar goes further with a Republican politician than it does a Democratic one. And then all of a sudden it becomes sort of like a self, sort of a self-licking ice cream cone. We're gonna make, when we get together as a lobbying group, we're going to sort of like indoctrinate our people more to the right. And then of course, you're relying on fossil fuels. Your enemy is maybe the EPA, and you like things to be local because, again, if you're the car dealer in town, not only, like you say, are you sponsoring the Little League team, but maybe you're also making a good deal for the town supervisor. I can put you in that vehicle with like, I can give it to you cheap. You're going to get it cheaper, $500 cheaper than anybody else. I mean, there's plenty of room for that to happen, obviously. Where did it start? I mean, I can't help but think that like, this was like one of those like California Republican type of things.
I mean, I think that maybe the critical thing to point out is that it's obviously the Little League example I think is pretty apt for the vast majority of this country, but at the same time, car dealers make a ton of money. Like this is a group in the top 0.1% of American earners. Like this is one of the top 5 most common professions. There was another breakdown of like census data that
how much does a car dealer make? Like typically, how much?
It was what car dealers, beverage distributors, and contractors, or maybe it was gas station owners. Those 3 jobs make up more than half of the businesses that pull in like $1.6 million or more per year. Like this is really like the elite. Like it doesn't seem like an elite sort of thing. It's not like a hedge fund manager. But this is what the American elite really looks like. This is what that class is really composed of. And so like when we're talking about tax code and we're talking about, sort of class composition, this is the very richest. These are the very richest people in America in a lot of very meaningful ways. And so obviously their fealty and their fealty to and their affinity for the Republican Party is kind of comes down on that. It's like the way that the Trump tax cuts were structured, like for one example, was basically to advantage car dealerships so that they would be immune to sort of like the tax bill that you would expect for businesses of this size that are that profitable. And it's like these family businesses, you can hand them down, they get carve outs from, Republican tax policy. And like, that's, I think, sort of how they found a home on this side of the aisle and obviously have been thriving there ever since.